Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home. That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby. You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
Hearts and minds. Hearts and minds this.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border, and then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on America's soil. So he became the anchor baby. They don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby.
What's up, everybody? Oh, can you see me? Oh, now you can see me. What's up, everybody? I am the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thank you for joining me here. We got a good show for you guys. You know what I actually have for you guys? I have an actual show for you today. An actual show, for once. So thank you again for joining me here on the program. Make sure you follow me, subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Gorgonzola. I got to change some of this wording up here, but just you're already watching on YouTube, so subscribe. Got to change this background a bit. And I'm now streaming on Rumble, so thank you guys for subscribing to my channel, rumble.com/American Anchor Baby. If you like Rumble, hit me up there because I got that going. Much appreciated. We can't see you. Oh, no, you guys can see me now, right? I fixed that. Okay, yes, you can see me. Like I said, we got a nice show ahead. Let me just pull up my show. And I want to start it off with a little bit of a discussion, I guess. There was a discussion I was having with Bill, the engineer, an expert, as well as Sean, Jesse Lee Peterson's producer. And he's out there grabbing the phones real quick for me, but he'll be in here in a moment. And I just have a question for them to start the show off a little bit. But real quick, welcome, everybody. I'm seeing some new names as well. Very nice. And like I said, hit me up on Rumble. Let me just check really quick that something here, that it's working and that I have it pulled up just in case I need to see what's going on over there, as well as the super chats and all that. You can support by sending in a super chat. We'll read it out. I think there was a couple super chats from yesterday from Spoiler Alert, and one about a reminder that Fox News has always been controlled opposition, so thank you for that. And he sent us a little meme as well about the gym. We were talking a little bit about gyms and women and what they wear at the gym, so I can't really pull that up, though. Spoiler alert. Thank you for that. I'll see if I can pull up the picture and show you guys. But yeah, that's that. Perfect. Okay, so Sean will be here in a moment, but I'll ask Bill my question here. Let me see if I can pull up the camera solo. Check this out. Got the systems right here in front of me. I can control the show all with just my hands. Let me see if I can pull it up. There it is. Hey, okay, that's not the shot I wanted. That's not good. Bill, can you just hold on while I fix this? What a mess. Hey guys, you guys gotta have to deal with me for a second here while I set this up. Oh no. Okay, we're just gonna have to do it like this. Bill, could you come over on the other chair? What a mess. What a mess.
What happened?
I had the shot set up, but then, it crashed, and so I didn't save the shot, and so now it's just too late to set up the shot.
Oh, wow.
But it's no big deal. So, what's so bad about social credit scores? You know what I'm talking about? Social credit scores?
They can be used against you. That's all. I mean, they'll be used against you eventually.
Okay, fair enough. And Sean is here joining us, and maybe he could squeeze in the shot a little bit, but hey, what a mess. Sorry, guys.
That's an up close and personal.
Yeah, but thanks for joining me here. It's great.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have to do it like this. But anyways, I just asked Bill. I'll ask you again. What's so bad about a social credit score? Because I hear about social credit scores coming about in like China, for example.
Yeah.
So what's your understanding of what it is, and is it bad or good?
I mean, it's pretty simple to me. Anything that veers toward top-down control as opposed to bottom-up control is not going in the right direction. It's going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm speaking very generally and not getting into specifics, but that's sort of the only way I can understand it is in simple terms. The whole idea of America to me is bottom-up control as opposed to top-down control. And by top-down control, I mean whatever, state control, media control. So that's what's bad about it to me.
Gotcha. Power is in the people.
Power, control, individual liberty, civil rights. All those things are meaningful to me. So
totally.
Social credit score is, it seems like it's already leaning that way. We already in sort of a social credit system to some extent.
Yeah.
But they've gone a little further with it in China. So
yeah,
not good.
Not good. Not good.
Bad.
Bill, you said it could be used against us. What do you mean? And callers, I know you're on hold. Don't worry. We'll get to you. Just hold. And either Sean will get your call or I'll just take it blind. No worries. Just hold.
I mean, it will be used against us. I mean, it will be used for the more corrupt the government is. I mean, things just kind of get wild and out of whack. Totally. And they use it for whatever. I mean, things become all about the look of it rather than the reality.
Okay.
Not even fixing things. They're not even really about fixing things. They're not about running them well. They're not about fixing. They're not about running it well. It's all about who you know. It's not about being fair.
It's about looks.
It's about looks.
Get the statistics down as long as it's on paper, so it looks good.
And I mean, and the more it goes down this road, it also gets more like, what was it? Give me that piece of paper.
Because I was fascinated by this conversation. Go ahead.
It's more about. It's more about the self-image, and whatever serves the self-image becomes evil. Whatever serves it is good, and whatever is against the self-image or the image that wants to be portrayed, it's a dream.
Yeah,
basically.
You're doing it all for the credit, not for the sake of whatever you're doing.
It's not about being real, basically. It's about the dream. Yeah.
Totally. Okay. Yeah. You were going to say something?
I thought, I was going to ask if he was talking about the self-image of the person or the self-image of the party or system.
I'm on
both.
Both.
Your self-image becomes entwined. Becomes the same. It becomes the same thing.
Right.
To be good, to have a good self-image, it means to follow what the state is telling you, whatever top-down power is telling you.
Protecting the image of the state at all costs.
Right, and that would be also a good thing personally. in that society.
Depending on what those guidelines are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm following you. And what we're talking about here, guys, is, there's this, if you don't know, social credit scores, the idea of giving you a number that goes up or down depending if you do the right thing, okay? And in China, they bring this up. I say they, but in the political world, they bring up this topic that in China they're giving people social credit scores, and if you don't say the right thing, or if you buy too much video games, or if you do something bad, we're gonna dock you points, okay? And I can understand what you guys are saying. I was first thinking about this because I saw this video, and I'll play it for you guys.
Yes.
I'll play this clip real quick, and it's this like animation. It's like an animated depiction of a future America under a social credit system. Okay. And then we had a conversation this morning, and I thought it was fascinating. So let me just run this clip. Okay, bingo. Got the system in front of me. Social credit button, and run it. So this guy, he's playing video games. He's playing a little Minecraft. He gets a little message on his phone. It's all connected, your game and your phone.
Good afternoon. It has come to our notice that you are spending a large amount of time playing video games. Last week, your average gaming time was 6 hours a day. These are unproductive hours that can also be spent on work, education, volunteer work, or anything else that has a beneficial value to your society. How about we stop playing games for now so you can focus on valuable things?
And he says, okay, he says, no, I deny this.
In case you deny our offer and choose to keep playing games, you don't add any value to your society. This means we will have to lower your social credit by 3 points. Please choose again.
Illusion of choice. Okay, so he agrees.
Excellent choice. You will now be blocked from playing video games for 7 days. Your social credit score remains the same by 648 points.
Wow.
And so, let me see if I can. Am I doing this right? There you guys are. Okay. And so I saw that, right? I guess just your main reactions, your just reaction to that, I guess, guys.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as I know, in China, this is already a thing. You're given like 1,000 points, and it either goes up or down. If you give donations to charity, it goes up, or if you clean the streets, it goes up, or if you are a journalist who uncovers corruption in the government elites, it'll go down. And some places in China, they have your face that it's up on a screen in the metro or whatever they have over there, and it's like the shame screen. Publicly shamed for, being late on your loan or etc. So I see how you're incentivized in that case if you're playing too much video games, and they say, they give you the thing. But this to me is forced.
Okay.
It's forced. I guess it's more like coerced.
Yeah.
But in a sense, it's forced, and that's not the job of the state to do that. It's not. That can only be done or should be done in a local a way as possible in a family. It's the father's job to give you positive reinforcement to keep doing things that are good, or to reprimand you should that be the case.
Yeah.
And there's no government or media or state that can replace that home structure. So that to me is what the whole credit score is. It's a replacement of that local home structure that you're supposed to have, but no one can replace that.
That's pretty common sense take there that you're saying, and I really find it hard to deny any of what you said there.
Yeah, and so let's say you're a journalist and you expose something, and then next thing you know, you can't buy a train ticket, or you don't have the most recent jab, and you can't get a loan.
Okay.
It's coercion. It's top down control as opposed to bottom up control.
And I'm understanding you, and honestly, I find it hard to disagree with that kind of bedrock, very common sense thinking. But some of the things you mentioned, they don't sound that bad. Like, if you clean the streets, you get points.
Right.
If you
Well, this is interesting too. I mentioned this when I was on the Hake Report a few weeks ago. It's the difference between negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement. Everyone knows now negative reinforcement doesn't work in a family. If the kid keeps, losing their keys, let's say, and you say, stop losing your keys, stop forgetting, that's a lot different than saying, I want you to be more careful. I want you to be more conscious. I want you to be more sober-minded. That's positive versus negative reinforcement. So if you're positively reinforcing the things that you want them to be, it's automatically going to put in their head, be more patient, be more conscious. But if you say, don't forget, don't be so foolish, they're thinking forgetfulness, foolishness. It's reinforcing. It's like signal boosting. It's reinforcing those things. So, like I said, it's not the job of a state to do that. But if they were to do the credit score system and they were to reprimand you for not cleaning the streets, it would be that negative type of reinforcement. It builds sort of momentum in that general direction. I always thought it'd be cool if they were to encourage people to go the speed limit by giving them rewards for going the speed limit.
Okay.
So let's say, I don't know, once a month, they pick someone out of traffic who is going the exact speed limit, and they give them like $1,000. It's like a lottery, but that would be like a kind of a positive reinforcement instead of constantly just giving tickets and stuff like that. Obviously important too. But let's say you knew that there was a chance if you were to go the exact speed limit that you would win, $1,000. More people would go the speed limit, the exact speed limit.
Okay. I understand what you're saying about positive and negative reinforcement. She sounded pretty positive, that the little government person in the cartoon. She's like, hey, don't you want to work and
Right.
provide something to society? And honestly, I can't disagree with the bedrock of what you're saying. I just find this interesting contrast going on with like this whole anti-China thing. It's like, or not so much the anti-China thing. I don't really care about that, but I hear this conversation about social credit scores being talked about amongst conservatives in politics and all that, and they'll point to China and be like, "Look at how oppressive and horrible this country is for doing that." They should, but what are they really fighting there? It's like, okay, wait, they're oppressive because they want their citizens to be productive and all that, and I understand what you're saying about the other stuff, like if you go against the government, you'll get bad points and all that. It just sounds to me like so far you're not so putting aside the top-down thing. You have a problem with the people setting who's in charge.
The fact that it is people in charge.
Okay.
Who, it's not their job. It's not their job to provide that structure and moral reprimanding.
Okay.
And stuff like that. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you put it in the hands of other people, you can't force people to do anything. You can't force races to come together. You can't force people to act the right way. And you can't, to an extent, you can't coerce them to do it either. We already have a social credit score in this country
right,
to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And if Ye acts out of line, he's thrown off out of his bank. Nick Fuentes isn't allowed to fly. I know during COVID, if you didn't have on your phone, if you didn't, I don't want to get too conspiracy theorist on you, but you could say the whole design of having phones with us at all times is to increase this type of structure. I
mean, and Bill and I have talked about this, how technology, cities, electric cars, etc. There's a culture of wanting to use those to basically make a docile populace.
Yeah.
Or easily tracked populace, all that. But on this here, like I was just saying, that contrast, how conservatives will they'll just denounce this social. Look at how evil China is, and then it's just a mess here, right?
Yeah.
And it's a complete other side of it where it's just like, do whatever you want. You should have the right to just do whatever you want. But America, you did bring that up, like earlier America, the whole point of America being the power, it comes from the people. It's like, even in that America and in earlier America, there was things like vagrancy laws. There was homelessness, for example, in relation to this topic. Homelessness, You didn't have a right to just be homeless.
Right.
You didn't have a right to just be in the streets. There was a lot of not only social pushback, but actual written laws, vagrancy laws, and all that. You couldn't just be a street person and be unproductive,
right?
Like you can today. In fact, today there are still those laws. They're just not enforced. In pretty much every state, vagrancy laws, loitering, everything's small. Everything's like as small as vagrancy and loitering to all the way to just not allowed to be homeless.
And people had God in their lives. They had that moral order within, which they just lived that order. It didn't have to come from the top. It was something that came from within. So super interesting. I mean, really, 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 really.
I'm really just drawing that kind of contrast because I can't even say that social credit scores are good or bad, and I honestly can't disagree with the common sense stuff you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think that contrast might make people think a little bit more, because it seems like it's just like you can just do whatever you want, and actually America wasn't always like that.
No,
not in that sense. Not in the sense of you could just destroy yourself, destroy the country, and be whatever.
And this makes me think of laws too, and law and order. Laws are a type. Laws are a type of social credit score. I heard somebody, I don't know, I think it was on the Daily Wire or something. Somebody talk about the airport in Singapore and how beautiful it is, and how their punishments over there are much more severe than punishments over here. And you don't, it makes our airports look like Skid Row.
Yeah.
And
Bill, you were telling me about, like, we were talking about, like, where do we draw the line, and how like basically everything's gearing towards this kind of like ego-driven world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
if you could expand a bit on that.
Ego-driven world.
You were telling it's all kind of, everything's kind of being geared to like a global order, etc.
Well, I mean, we were talking about how I just believe that this is just something that happens everywhere. It just kind of evolves, and this could be. I think it's probable. This is the way human beings just spread out. They make a city. They get together for a while. The first people who are there do everything. They're more about what's real. They make everything work properly because they're more about what's real. And then as time goes on, a few generations go by, and over time the people become less real and less real. And the less real they become, the more everything is run like crap. I mean, just run awful,
Yeah.
Everybody's got alternative motives for everything. They can't see what is the right thing to do because they're too self-centered to see what is the right thing to do. You know what I mean? They can't see the other person's point of view because they're too self-centered to see the other person's point of view.
They need a social credit score to keep them in line. I'm joking.
Yeah, well, yeah, then it works. You know what I mean? That's how to keep everybody in line. Exactly. And so the people who are still sane in there look at everything and say, "Let me get the heck out of here."
Yeah.
They move 100 miles away, and the whole thing starts over again.
Yeah.
And then it happens over and over and over and over, and
rinse, repeat.
Repeat. Yeah.
Fascinating stuff, and I thank you guys for joining me here. I guess I'll end it off here, and thanks again. Really.
Yeah, no problem.
Ultimately, man, I can't disagree with you, and when I think about the men who made America and all that, they didn't think in this way because they didn't need to, because they had God.
They had God, and everything was lived more locally. I think in 1900, 1905, 3/4 of Americans still lived on farms. And so I think about those old shows like Gunsmoke, or these old, cop sheriff shows, where it's just one sheriff in one little town, and he's the one to sort of lay down the law. And, the laws in those small towns that built America were more just laws that were agreed upon. They weren't necessarily on the books. There were things on the books, but when he had to lay down the law, he had to take down the whole episode of those shows is how he takes the complete context of the situation and does what's right, and not necessarily what's right on the books, but what's right. And as soon as you take a law and you try to apply it to a city with 12 million people, it gets misapplied. People get indicted when they shouldn't, and people don't get indicted when they should.
Yeah.
And so I think, the social credit score is just a natural thing that happens when people try to live globally, but it goes wrong so quickly because when you live locally, there are laws that are agreed upon and social credit scores that are just unsaid when you live, locally.
Totally. Would you say most Americans agree on an unsaid on some unsaid laws and stuff like that? How you described?
I think people that's when they live naturally. Like people naturally
But
live
today,
that way.
Americans today, do you think they agree on this? Do they have the same unsaid rules and laws between each other?
They do, but it's harder now when you live in a big city and you have 1,000 quote unquote friends instead of a small town where you only have 10 people you're really, really friends with. When you live in a big city and you're passing people every single day and you have 2,000 friends on Facebook, it cheapens friendship and it cheapens what family means and what intimacy means. And I have a whole rant about that. But basically when chimpanzees, when they live in groups, when the group gets, I'm not saying we came from chimpanzees either, but when the group gets,
what are you saying?
When the group gets above a certain number, it's like 120 or 150, it splits into two groups and they start fighting each other. And so when it is that one group, there's a very clear cut hierarchy. There's one chimp in charge and everyone falls in line. And like I said, if it gets too big, it splits into two groups. So I think we as humans can't really, if you live in a nuclear family in the middle of nowhere and you have 10 people that you trust within 10 miles of you, and that's how you live, then there is no need for a credit score from the top. Everybody has just an understanding.
Totally. It is a credit score from the top, but from the real top.
Right, but it's unwritten and it's just lived.
And the true top.
Law agreed upon.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fair. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
One quick thing. I heard this from Alan Watts once. There's a term in Chinese, I think. It's called like �𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔. I'm not pronouncing it right, but like �𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔. It's their word for nature, and it means that which happens of itself. It's not forced to happen. It just spontaneously, happens when you force someone to perform, like Jesse says with his banter, or with acting. When people tell him to do it, it's hard to do it. But when it just happens spontaneously, you can't force people to come together. You can't force people to behave socially in any specific way, in my opinion. And it's all about bottom-up control.
That's fair, man. I just don't think that that's what's going on today. What you're describing is only for like a godly populace, like the founder said.
No, it's definitely
everything we have, everything we created here, the Constitution, all that is only for a godly people, and so what you're describing, I just don't know if that's America today, and I'm just it's not what people are doing. It's more of a different, like a upside down freedom. Just do whatever. What you're describing is like, we have freedom, but you still got to follow this order, which is God.
Discipline equals freedom. That's a thing.
Which is the opposite.
And I totally agree. It's the opposite today. That's the whole problem.
And people out here decrying a social credit system, and it's like it's like when people can't follow the law of the heart. They need the law of the land. But I don't know. Ultimately I agree though, Sean and Bill. Thank you guys for joining me, man. That was interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. All right, y'all. Let me switch up the camera here. Okay. So I thought that was quite interesting this morning. And I think you guys could just walk. Oh no, you can't. It's no big deal. Whatever. It's a loosey-goosey Wednesday. Very interesting. Hope you guys found that somewhat interesting. We're talking about all that, and it kind of leads into this next topic here. It leads into this next topic here I had about family and the broken nation, the broken family. It's just true. It's just true. The destruction started at the root. You know what I'm saying? It started at the family, started at that individual local level, like Sean said. That very important building block has been broken, okay? And everything built on it is also broken, okay? That order, that social credit system of the family has been broken, okay? And I came across this one video on Twitter, somewhat viral. This woman filming a Walgreens, okay? And at this Walgreens, let me see if I can find the clip. Okay. This woman is filming this Walgreens, a looting in process happening at this Walgreens, and she's filming the situation. And the ones doing the looting are quite young. Watch this.
He done locked the kids in the store from stealing. Look at him. Look at him. Oh my God. Oh my God. Who bad? Ooh. They badass kids.
Running away. The caption at the bottom, it reads, "Is this how Walgreens
We gotta do
employees
better,
supposed
people.
to stop theft?"
We have to do better. Wow. Badass kids. They robbed the Walgreens.
And you saw little hoodlums, very young looking, okay? But it looks like that Walgreens employee had them locked in, and then I don't know if he was forced to open the door, because you can't keep, like, you know, in a lot of places it's pretty much against the law to stop a criminal in the middle of an act. You just got to let him steal. So I don't know if the Walgreens employee had to let him out, or if he's doing like some weird, like, you know, like border patrol, like compromised border patrol. You know, some of these border patrol agents, they're Hispanic and they're a little bit loose with the illegals. So I don't know what the Walgreens employee was up to, but very young is the most striking part of the video. Okay, young and black, and it's a emblematic, really just an ongoing showing of the true symptoms of the absolute breakdown of the family. It's happening in the blacks, and it's happening nationwide, and it's being it is being represented in different ways. This is one of the most extreme. A country cannot go on like this. Okay, it's really incredible. I mean, just how young they're getting. We're seeing these groups of young blacks just wild in. There's stories of carjackings, child carjackings in some cities gone up like crazy. What an absolute failure. And it really has started at the most root of it all, the family. That's what Jesse's been talking about, rebuilding the family. And it's a thing that I truly have seen in my own life, in my friends and family's life. Literally every one of my peers has been touched by this brokenness. Okay, I don't know anyone who hasn't been at least affected by it, at least has, or someone in their immediate orbit who has not been affected by it. It's been the mission, or it's in the tag, you know, mission statement of Bond, rebuilding the family. And it means, I think, just as much to me from what I've seen and the truth of it. It's crazy. I mean, they're so young. You saw that, right? I almost want to play it again. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be so surprised. Like, come on. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter and all that.
He done locked
But
the
it's
kids
just
in the
crazy
store
how young
from
they are.
stealing.
And a whole bunch of them, they don't care.
Look at him.
They see
Look
all the
at him.
videos.
Oh my
of them, and
God.
it's
Oh
like,
my God. Who
they're just laughing at
They
it. They're laughing
badass
doing
kids.
it. It's a lot worse than it looks. You know, they're just stealing chips. Them Dorito boys.
We gotta
shout
do
out to
better,
Art.
people.
Them's are Dorito boys. Okay. Wild stuff. And on this family stuff, there's been a little bit of a report that came out yesterday from a conservative voice, very big channel on YouTube. His name's Steven Crowder. And I was like debating whether I should touch on this or not. It is out there on the news. He put out a public video himself about it, and I want to touch on it briefly. But the man is getting a divorce. He's in the middle of a divorce, okay? Or has already been divorced or whatever. Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder, very big, very prominent conservative YouTube channel, very successful, in my opinion, very successful. Pretty good content too. I mean, you might have your criticisms on how weak or strong he may be on points, but the content it's good. It's comedic. It's well produced. You can't deny that. I believe that's a large part of their success. And so, so he put out a video. He started off yesterday's show. Steven Crowder started off yesterday's show talking about his divorce with his wife, and he described basically how she did it, that it was her fault, that he didn't want to get divorced, but Texas is a no-fault divorce state. You got to think about that. It's Texas. And I know that's a meme at this point. Texas is so conservative. It's even happening in Texas. It's happening everywhere. So I know it's a meme at this point, but it's kind of true. I mean, big red state, Christian state or whatever. It's my impression of it, at least. And Crowder is he described it a little bit in detail, or as much as you could. And like I said, it's a no-fault divorce, meaning one party can just simply want to get divorced, and they don't have to say why, give a reasoning for it. There's no one at fault, yet you can get a divorce. No fault divorce. I mean, I think that's even against the Bible, no? I mean, they gave you very few specific reasons in the Bible when you could get divorced, I think. But it's happening. It's just, again, emblematic of the whole breakdown, okay? It's happening to all people. And it's also shows just how one-sided the courts are, right? I heard, and I don't know if it's the statistic remains like this, but I heard that 80% of divorces are caused by the women, that are started by the women. So ladies out here destroying marriages without any fault. And I say without fault kind of jokingly because, I mean, you hear it on the JLP show and calls. You hear it in your own lives and in your friends' and families' lives. Stuff happens. Stuff happens, and misunderstandings and all sorts of stuff happens in families, relationships. And it gets wild. It gets crazy. It gets complicated. And if you've done any paying attention to the calls on the JLP show, it usually gets complicated over not complicated things, really just complicated through emotions, through the deception in your own mind and your perception of your relationship and your expectations of how things should be. And it makes me think about Bond a little bit because I've seen people come to Bond or I've heard about people that get married. They listen to Jesse and they get married and that's amazing, right? That's really amazing in the sense that, the birth rates are low and we're trying to rebuild a family. I mean, that requires to get married. A family it's not a family unless it's a man and a woman married. And it shows me that people are still trying their best, at least the people coming to Bond. They're trying their best. They're by, making their decisions. They see the choices before them, and they're still putting some skin in the game and giving it a good shot. Okay, and that's most people can do. Okay, but I've also seen people come to Bond and get all totally gung ho about Jesse's message, thinking he's saying you need to get married to your girlfriend right now, and stuff like that. And if this Crowder thing, if those kids looting the Walgreens, if the one-sided courts, 80% of divorces started by women is showing us anything, that it just means we got to get right individually as men and be ready for anything. I want to play you a little bit of I was kind of debating if I should, but I'm going to play you a little bit of Crowder's clip here because I do want to make a little comment about it. It's gossip. Okay, fine. It might be gossip. It might be gossipy, but I don't want to talk. I don't care, but, I wish him well with that. It's whatever to me. But it's there's another point I wanted to make before playing it. I used to see marriage in this way as well. Okay, I've never been married, but I used to see it in this way as it, and what I'm referring to is just if you're not happy, you can leave. I used to see marriage like that because it's kind of a view that I had, I guess, given to me by the prevailing culture. But I don't think it's like that. You know, I'm starting to see it's really not about your feelings about it at all. Anyways, enough with the ramble. Let me show you some of this Crowder clip here real quick because I want to make a little comment about it.
I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted. It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life, what I consider to be my deepest personal failure. And just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed. I've always believed that children need a mom and a dad, that divorce is horrible. And I still believe that children need a mom and a dad and that divorce is horrible. But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter. In Texas, divorce is permitted when one party wants it, period.
So, you know, I wish him well with all that. It's crazy. It is true that the courts are against the men and you don't really have a say. You know, it used to be, from what I could tell, that you can just leave. Okay, woman, you stuck with me. I married you, you married me. You stuck. Which may sound evil to some people, but that's just like what I think a little bit closer to what marriage is, because people don't even know what it is, and I don't even know. I may not even know what it is. But I played you this clip because I want to comment a little bit on the language, and this is coming from someone who hasn't been married, and so I know it might be super easy for me to sit here and say this, but I understand he's a public figure, so maybe he was forced to talk about it or something. I don't know if there's any point or good in talking about it like that, but this is a total if poem moment. Like, he calls it his most heartbreaking experience, my deepest personal failure. And I can understand that language, deepest personal failure, because whether the courts are involved, whether the courts are geared towards women or not, no fault divorce and all that, you can understand a man wanting to seeing it as a personal failure, because ultimately you may believe, well, I just wasn't man enough, like I didn't command in the relationship enough, or I wasn't the man enough to draw her unto me and make her never leave, whatever it is. So you can understand that he himself calls it a personal failure. So I don't need to harp on him or get him for that. But the most heartbreaking experience, I mean, I guess I can understand it. I just want men to be steely in all situations. In all situations. I know it sounds so easy for me to say. And I'm here, this guy who might take things personally sometimes. So I guess, who am I to say that, right? But isn't it true? Doesn't it remain true? Stay steely in all situations. This is an if poem moment. If you lose everything, never speak of it. And all that. I'm paraphrasing the poem. Kind of my thoughts on it a little bit. We can all understand the feelings of personal failure. I think we can all understand that. And at the same time understand the insanity of the courts and all that. How do we win this? How do we do? I mean, I don't know. Besides that, I have maybe ideas. But I mean, ultimately, it's ourselves. And he said his deep. He goes on later too to say his personal failure also in choosing. He's like, I should have chosen better. I didn't choose correctly. And this one, I'm still smoking on this one, but I don't know if you choose. I don't know if you should choose. And it sounds like if you choose, you always choose wrong. I'm still smoking on this whole thing because I don't know if there exists a reality where you don't choose a woman. I'm kind of rambling now, not making sense, so I'm going to stop. I've said my point on the Crowder thing. Anyways, hope you're finding this interesting. I mean, it's what's going on. And on this topic, okay, on this whole family breakdown and just insanity that's going on, I have to bring this up. And I've had this story kind of put away. I thought it was silly, but it fits the show. And I'm talking about this woman. Okay, this woman named Tracy Cox. And I got a bone to pick with Tracy. Tracy won't answer my calls. She won't answer my emails. She used to. What happened, Tracy? Why aren't you answering me? Tracy Cox, she's an English nonfiction author, a columnist, and she specializes on dating and sex and relationships, okay? She's a 61-year-old woman. Let me see if I can pull up the stuff on her. This woman right here, this is her book. This is her book. Great Sex Starts at 50. What's up with these? Something I've noticed about sex and women, as they get older, they find another wind. You know, they get their second wind and they leave their man in the dust. You know what I'm saying? Is anybody understanding what I'm saying here? It's like they, if left to their own devices, if not properly dealt with, women get like another wind in this like sex world, and they get all prettied up in their later years. And am I making sense here? And the men are fat and lame now. Their husband. But this woman, she won't answer my calls. I've been trying to get her on as a guest and stuff. Lol, Nick. Yeah, they do. Okay, you guys are understanding me a little bit, right? Oh, you've never seen the Golden Girls, have you? Is that what the Golden Girls is about? What I'm talking about? So Tracy Cox, she won't answer me. Answer my calls. What happened? We were having a nice conversation. She said in the emails that I was a delight to talk to. Why do I have a bone to pick with Tracy though? Because Tracy she's been putting out article after article on Daily Mail over the years. This is why I know about her, because I see her in the Daily Mail in my news aggregates as I'm putting together shows for Jesse when I was his producer. And I would see her every now and then with an article about this way to spice up your sex life. Cheating is not necessarily a bad thing and might spice up your sex life, or the reason why your marriage is failing. And it's always about sex with this woman. It's always about how to make it spicier, how to bring back the flame in your life, and it's always about that with this woman. Well, recently, the last two most recent articles I saw about Tracy on the Daily Mail, she seems to have flipped. She seems to have shown a little bit of worry. With this first one from Daily Mail, she writes, "There's a sex act that's worryingly becoming the norm, even though it's dangerous." What's she talking about? She's talking about, dangerous, like choking, okay? I'm sorry if this is too graphic. I'm not trying to be nasty, but I am trying to bring a point here. She's talking about choking and stuff, and she's very worried. She's extremely worried that partners are doing this. It's very dangerous. She describes in this article how it's linked to pornography, and and she basically decries it as a negative. And so that was the first thing I saw. I saw another article, the more recent one, and now Tracy Cox is saying, "I'm seeing women all around me get sexually wild in midlife, and I can't even believe some of their antics." Lady, you did this. You wanted this. You know what I'm saying? Like, and in general, like, women are just like so laissez-faire and like, okay, whatever, let's everybody be ourselves until society starts falling apart. And they're like, what the? That's way too far for me. You should have just been doing what I was telling you yesterday. What you're doing today is too far for me. not seeing the slippery slope, not seeing how things progress. Okay, it's the women sending their kids to the drag queen shows. It's the women who are like fighting the fathers in the home on the transitioning stuff. Okay, like Tracy, you crazy old bat, shut up and find God, because this society is what you wanted. Okay, it's insane. And on this whole like sexual morality and all that and women, I saw this exchange between Rick Grinnell and Scott Moorefield on Twitter. And I don't know who Scott Moorefield is. Rick Grinnell, he was in the Trump administration as the acting director of the United States National Intelligence, and he's gay. And he's pro-gay, and he's not in the closet about it. He's out with it. And there was this exchange between this Scott Moorefield person. And Scott Moorefield put out a video, and in this video, it's supposed to, the video is basically criticizing the Trump administration's kind of softness with trans and LGBT stuff. And so Scott Moorefield's kind of bringing attention to it. And so Rick Grinnell, his response to the whole thing was, "You're being homophobic for saying that." And I think I have the tweets here. Hold on. He's saying, "You're being homophobic." Oh yeah, here they are. Scott Moorefield is saying, he puts out that video criticizing the Trump admin and all that, and Richard Grinnell says, "Wrong. You've crossed the line into homophobic tropes." Here's another one here. And he goes on again to say, "You crossed the line into attacking homosexuality." And I'll play you the clip here in a moment. But it's just this weakness, okay? It's not all the way. Like Tracy Cox, like Christianity in America, like it's just so it's a weakness. It's not all the way. And so let me just play the clip, because I think it was also a little unfair of Scott Moorefield lobbing this to Trump specifically, maybe to his son. In the clip, you'll see Don Jr. talk. That might be fair for him. I think it might be a little bit unfair lobbing it at Trump, and I'll tell you why. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. It's like the same sexual immorality. You're like, oh, we're conservatives, okay? We want less economy. I mean, we want to fix the economy and a smaller government. No, that if I want anything out of this movement or anything, because I'm not here in this chair advocating for a movement or Christian nationalism or anything. I'll let someone else do that, because I'm just kind of me. Okay, I'm still kind of trying to figure stuff out. But if there's anything I want out of the movement, it's not just to win the presidency. It's, it's like changing of the change that's happening in me, in my heart. Hopefully, that's maybe lofty, but a change in motivations and attitudes. Okay, because it's from that will, change policy and change the things that we care about. Okay, so let me play you this clip. Right here. Okay.
I don't give a shit, dude. If you're an adult and you want to be trans and you do it, great.
Yeah.
If you're happy, you're productive. I actually
Forcing
don't give a shit. Like, I'm fairly liberal on the issue.
And if you take a man and they dress up as a woman and you tell me I have to accept that they're a woman, then you're asking me to be complicit in a lie. And I just refuse to do that.
Speak about North Carolina bathroom law in particular.
Leave it the way it is right now. There have been very few problems. Leave it the way it is.
Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
Ooh, they got him. Trump got. And in that clip, I get it. DeSantis looks strong, and he's like, no, I'm not going to agree with that. And Don Jr. is being a liberal, okay? So whatever with him. But it's just a little unfair. I gotta say, it's a little unfair because it's very different. The question, are you okay with transgenderism as a whole, et cetera, is very different from, would you allow Caitlyn Jenner into your bathroom? And that was also a different time. That was from a few years ago, okay? Like, it's just a little unfair, okay? I don't think you can make that same connection. It's a very different question to be like, what do you think about transgender ideology as a whole? And would you let Caitlyn Jenner use your bathroom? In my opinion, okay? In my opinion. Okay, I just don't... everything has shown me otherwise, that Trump would be so soft. Okay. Anything else I want to say about this? I guess the final thing here before I take a call here, you can call 888-775-3773. I guess I want to say a little bit about a caller I had, I think yesterday or the day before, Donning Armor, asking me about, am I here advocating for Christianity? Should everybody be Christian and stuff like that? And Donning explained his skepticism on, well, just having everybody believe in Christianity. I don't think that'll fix things. It was an interesting conversation. You could check out that episode. But I guess in further reflecting his question and all that, I'm not doing this to create like a Christian nation. And I'm not saying that that's not what I want or what America should be. But me, specifically in this chair, talking as I'm talking, I'm not a Christian nationalist in the sense that I'm not trying to make others like that. I guess you could describe me as a Christian nationalist or something like that. But I'm not trying to make others like that because in my life, I don't try to make people Christian. I don't try to convince people about that. The thing is, I just don't know, about some stuff. So I'm not trying to make people Christian. I'm just trying to speak my mind here, okay? But anyways, if we're going to have a social credit score, I say make it Christian. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple things I want to talk about here. I want to talk about DeSantis a little bit more, the Thucydides trap, and a little bit about what's going on. But first I have Patrick from Denmark. Patrick, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi there, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks, Patrick. Go ahead.
Good to know. So about the Crowder guy, he's getting divorced, right?
Yeah. Stephen Crowder, yep.
So, I mean, I understand that, and this is very deep, but everyone gets born to the life.
You're clipping in and out, Patrick. Can you repeat what you last said? Oh, Patrick. Patrick. I think I hear you again.
I'm right.
I'm sorry, man. You're coming in and out.
Excuse me.
I want to hear what Patrick's got to say. Patrick, we'll give him another second. We're way Lucy and Goose here on American Anchor Baby.
Oh my! Hello.
Okay, I hear you again.
Okay, I guess the situation is better now.
Yes, it's much better.
Can you hear me properly?
I hear you fine. Thanks, Patrick. So you were saying about Crowder?
Right, about Crowder. So I understand that if this connection will allow me to say it.
Yeah, they don't want you to.
I understand that we are being born into the life that we wanted. So there is not really a coincidence to what we are experiencing. Do you hear me?
I think I'm hearing you. You're saying everything we experienced was already meant to be? Every individual?
Yeah. So get this. God is telling us to expand our consciousness at this very moment. He's doing something different. Some things are retracting. Other areas are expanding. This means that men as a whole must confront their origins, which is, well, Adam, while women are confronting their origins, which is Eve. And it's very profound for the woman that she certainly is doing what she must in leaving the men, because the men are being called right back to God right now, and the sons are being returned to the fathers. Does this make sort of sense to you, Nick?
I think I'm understanding what you're saying. If I may distill, you're saying that what's happening to Crowder, and I think you're implying to any man being divorced, is that this is that it's happening to him, like it's meant to happen to him, so that he can return to God.
Yes, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate because we
And why do you
men,
believe that?
we have been so far removed. Yeah.
And why do you believe that?
Basically it. I believe it because I can see him when he's sitting there that he's very much. I can see the kind of life that this person has been, aiming towards. It's very clear that. I mean, I think the last decade. I think he and all men were rolling on the last decade. It was an interesting decade, and we thought the 20s, they're going to be just like that. But that's not how it's going down. It's completely reversed. And Crowder, he is kind of stuck in that kind of life that he had in the 10s, And, but that's not, how can I make this sound correct? What I'm trying to say is that he's being forced to confront God.
Okay.
Because men, we get lazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So men got lazy and forgot about God. But we're being reminded in a hard way that we really need to return to God. And
oh yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, because for those that pay attention, I think our lives have different instances where, in a sense, you could see it as either God calling you, or more like you are experiencing the consequences of not being with God. And if you pay attention, then that is, in a sense, God reaching out to you, sort of.
I think I got you right there. That it's a very faint call that God will make to you sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
And you can see a lot of high rollers that they're cruising and they're bragging about what they own and all of their wealth, and they have a life that it's just perfect. And then God, he takes the carpet and sweeps it out from under you, reminding you that no, you belong to me, and we need to make this world worth running around, right? We need to make it worthwhile, and right now it's not worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
You're having a good time on like a hair of what I'm actually about. That's what God is trying to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we really did what God wants us to do, we would retract to Him, and we would cause His order to be as it must be, which is God above the Son above the man above the woman, and the woman above the child.
Fascinating. Yeah,
And Crowder, I think he went too far off from that. And I think we as men, as a whole, we have diverted so far from it that God is saying, no, listen, don't care about the woman now. I'll remove the woman from your life. Your marriage is over. You're going back to me. You're returning to the Father.
Okay. And I don't know what's happening to Crowder specifically, so I don't want to say, because we just don't know. But you're so right. It's as a whole, men as a whole.
Yes.
We talk about women and all that all the time, but there's this ultimate responsibility that I gather. I might be wrong, but it feels like an ultimate responsibility that the world is the way it is because of the lack of whatever men have lacked. And so you could say, maybe you can infer that happened with Crowder. I just don't know. But that's just true, man, for men in general.
Yes. Women are going to do as they always do. They're going to run things into the ditch, and they will feel the consequences until they don't want to feel that anymore. And they'll be, it's just how it goes. So you got to stay with God no matter what. Forget the woman.
Yeah, man. And what you're saying too, it's like, think about it. It's like this, you're saying people with money, that's Crowder, etc. It seems like it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you got money, if you got the status. It does not matter. it seems like what we're missing is something a little bit deeper, because we see this too with the whole red pill and the Andrew Tate world, which I don't have a problem with. Andrew Tate, I like him, but you know, they have kind of a, in my opinion, a kind of shallow view of relationships, women, marriage, and sex in general. And they'll say, like, you know, you got to have the status and you got to be a high value man and you got to do all this. But it seems like all these men are still getting divorces. So Trump,
it is a show.
Trump, look at all the divorces Trump went through. Like, it does not matter. Those things that you have, it seems like what we're missing is a little bit deeper.
It is shallow, and it is kissing up to the woman, no matter what Andrew Tate or whoever tells you. And you really,
but they're not pro-marriage; they're pro-sex, basically. So you can understand.
They're pro-sex. They are being driven by their instincts.
Exactly.
And you can't have that. Women don't respect that. They sense the weakness, and women are wonderful in that because they will remind you and push you to your limits to keep them in check. And now it's just, you know, it's completely apparent that it's not happening like that. Like women, you gave women their freedom to choose. Now they're just going to choose who's going to take that freedom away from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can clearly see they don't care about the collapse. If you must go into a kind of collapse for things to come about in a positive way, I mean, they don't care. They really don't care.
Yeah, women are progressive, men conserve. Very interesting, Patrick.
I mean,
fascinating.
It's very simple. It's very, very simple, people. Just this last thing. Women are a body. They are a body, and they need a head in order to make decisions, in order to function. They're like little children. And I love women. They challenge me. They help me become greater. But you got to be the head of your woman, of the women in your vicinity. Okay. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, Nick.
No problem, Patrick. Always a pleasure, man. Call me again.
Thank you, man. I love you. Bye.
Same here, brother. Okay, so got another topic for you. Okay. But first, I got some super chats, y'all. Thank you. Much appreciated, as always. Let me see here. DH with that first class super chat. Can you hear Patrick saying Nick her? LOL. I'm immature. Renesio with the super chat says, can't imagine Hitler petting his dog. You can't imagine that? Did Hitler have a dog? Was he a dog guy or a cat guy? Was Hitler a dog guy or a cat guy? Did Hitler... This is important. No, I don't know why this is important. Did Hitler have a dog? Apparently he had a German Shepherd. You're saying you can't imagine him petting him? Why? I don't understand. DH with a super chat says, your intro is so great. Love it. Thank you for that. Okay. We got another topic for you, okay? And by we, I mean me. And I want to talk about politics. We politicking a little bit still. And 2024 is kind of building up. 2024 presidential elections. Been building up, whatever you want to say. It's happening. Joe Biden launched his campaign. He put out that video, you know, talking about his re-election for 2024. His tagline, let's finish the job. I mean, I don't have the video for you here. I watched it. I finally watched it, and the Democrats have a response, okay? They're no louts. We shouldn't underestimate, because they got this whole thing where they're like, we're going to make everything normal, and it's not going to be so crazy like these January 6ers, and of course they throw in like abortion and stuff. So they got their little groups, blacks, women, etc. So they got the support of the oppressed groups. They're forming what they're forming here isn't anything to sneeze at, in my opinion. Joe Biden looks pretty good in this, you know what I'm saying? Let's go, Joe. But anyways, on that whole topic though, as we politicking, Chris with a super chat says, "Sup, Sion?" Nice. Thank you for supporting and trying to holla at my flight attendant, Sion. I'm just playing. Okay. on this whole politicking thing, 2024, Ron DeSantis. Meatball Ron. We got Ron. Governor Ron DeSantis, interviewed by Japanese news outlet Nikkei Asia. He did this interview, and this just happened, I believe. Governor Ron DeSantis was interviewed by Japanese news outlet Nikkei Asia while visiting Japan on an international trade mission. He's been on a little bit of a world tour there. While in Japan, the governor met with key business executives and government leaders to strengthen economic ties between Florida and Japan. Doesn't that just sound funny? We need to, an alliance between Florida and Japan. It's like, bro. It's Florida, man. You're not president. I don't know. It just sounds a little like funny. But anyways, he did this interview, and he's asked about China. He's asked about a couple things, and I thought this was quite interesting. What should I do first? Should I just play the clip? Should I just roll the footage? Yeah. Okay, let's play the clip. Interviewed by Nikkei Asia.
You know, now if you look where we're at this juncture of the 21st century...
My apologies. Let me make this clear, because the interviewer doesn't ask the question. They just write the question in the corner. And the first question here, posed to DeSantis, is, what are his thoughts about Japan and China relations, I believe. Anyways, the question will be in the top left if you miss it.
You know, now if you look where we're at this juncture of the 21st century, what the Soviet Union was to us then, that's really what China represents with the CCP in terms of the threat to the free world. And I think in many respects, the CCP is stronger than what the Soviet Union was. Certainly economically, they are way stronger than what the Soviet Union ever was. And so when you look at that, our national security strategy has really got to view the Indo-Pacific like we did Europe after World War II. And to be able to do that effectively obviously requires us to make sure that we have strong defense and that we can project power. But it really does require a very close relationship with U.S. and Japan. And I think the Quad with India and Australia, I mean, I think that's a good framework, but I definitely think I would say Japan, U.S. are the cornerstone of that strategy.
Why? That's my first question, right? It's like, wait a second, why? Because he's saying what China is today is what the Soviet Union was to America today. They are threatened. He hasn't said threat yet, but he's calling them that they're the Soviet Union today. And my first thoughts is like, wait, how? Because I don't know that. Maybe he's right, but I don't know that. And there's this Soviet era imagery that he brings up. And I find it interesting that I have that too. I know that a lot of people, much older, they grew up, they heard about the Cold War, maybe even grew up around a time where that was significant. But even that still prevails today, because I had that growing up a bit about communism and the Soviet Union and the Cold War and stuff. That imagery is even in my mind. And so he brings that up and he makes this, and he links China to the Soviet era, and already I'm like, spooky. No, communism bad. A little part of me is, though. And so I would like to know, like, wait a second, how and why? Anyways, he goes on in this next clip, and he's asked, is China our biggest threat?
I don't think, without question it is. I mean, I think that if you look at Xi Jinping, he's very ideological. He's got a very clear idea of what he wants to do by entrenching the party in power, entrenching himself in power, and then he's built up military capability. And unlike maybe some previous Chinese leaders, he wants to project that beyond China's borders in a much bigger way. And I think what makes them a significant threat is they've been able to make themselves, partially because U.S. policy facilitated this, the biggest industrial power in the world. So the things that we do in the United States, like our nuclear arsenal, depends on parts and things made in China. And so we've put ourselves in, not just the U.S., but other democracies, have put ourselves in a vulnerable position vis-a-vis China. Xi clearly wants to take Taiwan at some point. He's got a certain time horizon. He could be emboldened to maybe shorten that horizon.
So he says, yes, China is our biggest threat. Our biggest threat is China. And so I just ask, well, how and why? And he tells us, well, because Taiwan. Well, because Xi Jinping, he's ideological and he wants Taiwan. Oh, well, because, China, they make stuff for our nukes. Wait a second. And they're a rising industrial power. Okay, well, first of all, the nuke thing. Then make our own. Like we did that to ourselves. So the answer is war with China. I mean, he didn't say that, but the answer is anti-China. Wait a second. We did that. The answer is time to build up American factories and American workers and American industry. So in the whole nuke thing, the answer remains an internal thing. We got to look at ourselves and fix ourselves. China's the big enemy. They're making our nukes. Okay, he says because Taiwan. And maybe some of you don't know this because I just recently learned this about Taiwan and the China relationship. Like, why? What's the big deal there? Why does China want Taiwan and why is that a bad thing? Well, Taiwan is strategic. Okay, first of all, Taiwan is not part of NATO, but they have very close defense ties with the U.S., okay? And Taiwan, let me show you a little map. Taiwan sits on the coast of China, okay, at least to the east. And as you can see, between Japan, which is at the top right, and Taiwan, which is the bottom left, the biggest island on the bottom left, you can see there's a bunch of islands between Japan and Taiwan. And this whole area of Taiwan, Japan, and the islands between, it basically control a very strategic point in the sea. Okay, is that the China Sea, the Great China Sea, or something like that? And you got to understand how strategically important it is to have bases. For example, U.S. military bases in these islands. You basically control the waters. Imagine if China was doing that to islands bordering America. You know what I'm saying? So already you lose any kind of moral like superiority there, DeSantis, because we're doing like we wouldn't allow that, first of all. And so now you maybe start to understand why China would want Taiwan. Now you maybe start to understand why Russia would want the Donbass around Ukraine. It's about taking care of your own. Okay? And so again, I arrived to why is that our biggest threat then, DeSantis? That doesn't quite make sense to me. In fact, if anything, and I'm not an expert on this, I don't know this stuff, it just fits more of that neocon war stuff. Is that too far for me to say? It just sounds like that, okay? Have you guys ever heard of what a Thucydides trap is? Basically, a Thucydides trap, it's a term that came from the history of this war between Athens and Sparta, okay? Back in those times. I'm such a good historian. But basically, at the time, Sparta, the Spartans were the dominant power. Okay, and the rise of Athens and the fear that this instilled in Sparta was what made war inevitable, at least according to the historians who use this term Thucydides trap. Okay? It comes from, it's based on, the whole name comes from an Athenian historian in general named Thucydides. The point is that the Thucydides trap can be seen in many different conflicts that have arisen in the world. And you can even draw that parallel with Ukraine and with Russia, with China and America. The dominant power threatened by the rising industrial power of China. And DeSantis sounds like he's defending those interests. And okay, maybe you think, maybe he should defend those interests. Aren't we America? But wait a second, those interests, from what I can tell, what we can see in the military, in the State Department, are our enemies. That's what I see. Is that just too simplistic? Because that's what I see. That's what I see about this whole thing. And then finally this too. He says our biggest threat is China. That's just not true. Our biggest threat is within the government, within ourselves. And that's what Trump said. Our biggest threat is within, Ron. Our biggest threat is China. Maybe I'm short-sighted. Someone's got to tell me. You hit me up and tell me if I'm short-sighted, because our enemy is within. And it's just true. All right, y'all. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat, because I've already gone quite a bit, and that's pretty much what I had to say today. And it's been awesome. It's been fun doing this. Hope you enjoyed it as well. What are y'all saying in chat? I'm making this too much like a chill Nick stream where I read the chat and I take my time. I should be a little bit more serious, okay? We're doing an actual show today. And in the spirit of doing an actual show, I'm going to end this actual show. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm the Anchor Baby. That was my show. Join me tomorrow for a Thursday show at noon, as we do. And stay in tune with my Twitter and my YouTube, and keep a watchful eye out for a possible Nick stream, maybe 1 or 2 this week, where we fly the plane. All right, y'all. Again, thanks again for tuning in. Catch me tomorrow. Take care. It's been a pleasure.